On that note, let's bring in Peter Forcelli. He's the recently retired Deputy Assistant Director of the US Department of Justice's Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives. Peter, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So it looks as though we're not going to get any answers to our questions just yet when it comes to these perceived failures from the Secret Service. What questions do you have this morning, sir?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, there was a very big failure that occurred with failing to secure that roof. What I've learned most recently is that the shooter actually erected and climbed a ladder in order to access that roof. What I've heard is that a police officer was alerted to this, climbed that ladder, and the suspect turned around and pointed a rifle at that police officer, who then either climbed back down the ladder or fell from the ladder. I'm hearing two different stories about that. But as a result of him being discovered, my belief is that he rushed those shots, and that might have saved President Trump's life. Had he had the time to be up there and get in place and not feel that he was discovered, he might have had more time to take aim and to more carefully place those shots. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. And then I'm also learning that he had in his vehicle an improvised explosives device made out of an ammo can filled with ammonium nitrate and fuel oil and some other items that were inside, as well as a rocket motor as an initiator, and a similar device was found in his residence. So, I mean, there are just a ton of questions, and there's a lot of investigation that still needs to happen.
Wow, I've got so many questions to ask you just off that response, Peter. So just back things up again. An ammo can, what's that?
Well, it's a container that's used to carry ammunition. They're metal containers. They're roughly maybe 8 inches deep by about a foot tall, and about maybe 16 inches in length.
So what would you do with something like that?
Well, look, you could make an improvised explosive device out of any container. So if you fill it up with something that's combustible that would expand and cause that container to burst, therefore you have that explosion.
Wow.
So this is a little bit bigger than perhaps, a small pipe bomb, but it could do a lot of damage. So, I mean, there's still so much that we have to find out about this shooter and about his background, what motivated him to do this. But clearly, he represented a danger. And I do think that police officer peeking his head over the top of that ladder may have saved President Trump's life, in addition to the measures that were taken by the Secret Service afterwards. But failing to secure that roof was a horrible, horrible mistake.
Yeah, look, I mean, the question is being asked today. I mean, how was he able to get up on that roof in the first place? I mean, as I've mentioned a few times, I've been to a couple of these rallies in the past, and there's security sweeps. You can't get anywhere close to these things. So how was he able to get so close onto a roof, which is a raised building?
Yeah, no, he erected and climbed a ladder, which is mind-blowing when you think about it, because it's not something that's normally quiet and that easy to do. So he climbed the ladder, and that's how he was able to access the roof with the rifle. He was out of the sight of the Secret Service snipers when he did this. Thankfully, citizens notified the police that they saw him erecting that ladder and climbing up the building. So the police officer responded and followed him up that ladder. Like I said, my understanding is that the shooter turned and pointed the rifle at that officer, who then descended back down that ladder, whether voluntarily or by falling, and that alerted the shooter that the gig was up, that he was discovered. And I think that him rushing to place those shots was potentially what saved President Trump's life.
Amazing.
Because a headshot would have killed him. With that rifle, you understand, he wouldn't have heard those shots coming, because a 5.56 rifle fires at 120 yards. The speed of that bullet would have been roughly 2,800 feet per second. So he wouldn't have heard those shots go off by the time the bullets had reached his location.
Wow.